Hi friends, it's Heather with Running with Scissors, and you saw in the opening that we are making firecrackers for our June 2024 box. It's box number 43. Box number 43, and we rated this as Girl Please because this one is really easy to do. So let's see what's in the box. All right. So in your box, you're going to have 2 stencils, and it doesn't look like there's much on here, but one of them is cut into strips, so they are like the stripes of the flag. It's really going to act mostly like masking tape for you, but we didn't want you to have to be responsible for so much masking tape and at the correct width, so we gave them to you in the form of a stencil. And then the other one has stars on it, and we did not weed out those stars because it's easy enough for you guys just to peel those off. Just like, let me show you real quick, just like this. And we will not need a top mask on them. So that's how your stencils are going to come for this box. Now you also have 3 wood blocks that make up your firecrackers. You'll have your white, red, and we went with a navy, the Salty Dog paint on this one. You'll have 3 yellow sponges to paint your blocks with, 2 white sponges to do your stenciling with. You have a bag of wood pieces. This is the tag that says USA with a couple of stars on it. A piece of jute to tie your tag on. You have a hot glue stick to glue your firecracker wicks on. Now you'll have a complete piece of wick here, but I cut mine into pieces on accident, and so you'll have a complete one and you'll cut that down later. And then you'll have a small glue just to glue your tag pieces on. You don't even need this whole thing. And let's see, I think that's about it. Now you are going to want to make sure that you have a hot glue gun available. So I have my electric glue gun, actually it's my battery operated glue gun, and you're going to want a pair of scissors. I think that's all that you're going to need for this. If you need more things, of course, I'll discover them during the video. And of course, you're going to have an instruction sheet, which, you know, as always, is completed after I do the demo, so it's never in the demo box. So you'll have that in yours as well, that you can read the instructions on instead of watching the video. And of course, at the top of that, we'll tell you everything that you need in case I didn't cover it here. Sometimes I try to plan ahead, but I never know if I think of everything. So I'm gonna take everything out of my box and I'm just going to get started. So my big block, I am going to paint with the red and the white stripes. So it's easier to paint red over top of white than white over top of red. So I am going to just paint this whole block white to begin with. Okay, whole block white to begin with. So let's just go ahead and do that. And now you can put your paint on your box or on a paper plate if you want, but I'm just gonna grab mine right from the pod until it's no longer easy to do that. Okay, so our first coat of paint is on our first block, and we're just gonna set that aside, and we're gonna move on while we wait for that to dry and to give it its second coat. So our next block, the medium-sized block, we're gonna paint this one navy. All right, so there's our first coat on our blue block. And we're just gonna move that aside so it can dry. And now your third block, which is your smallest block. So of course our tallest block that we just painted white, that's gonna be our stripe block. Our blue block is gonna have the stars on it. And our smallest block is gonna have the tag on it. So you can paint that whatever color you want. Maybe you wanna lighten up the blue with a little bit of white, or maybe you just want to paint it red and put some dots on it. Either way, it's totally your decision on what you do with it. So I think that I'm going to paint my last block red, and I've not yet decided what I'm going to do on it. Clearly you know because you've seen the picture already, but at this point I'm not 100% sure. So I'm just gonna paint it red, and and then we're just gonna set that aside, and then we can go back to putting second coats on. So I'm gonna go put my second coat of white and navy on my blocks. All right, so that's our second coats on our blocks. So now let's move over to our tag while we have all of our sponges wet still, not dried out yet. And I want my USA to be red, white, and blue. I know that. So I don't want to make the back of my tag, I don't want the back of my tag to be red, white, or blue. So instead, I'm going to take my blue sponge and I'm going to dip it in a little bit of white. And I'm just going to paint my tag whatever shade of light blue comes out. I'm just swiping until it all blends together so it's the same color. And I'm going to take my white sponge and I'm just going to paint my stars white. And then USA, I know I want I'm gonna go red, white, blue. So the S is gonna be white. So I'm just gonna paint that white. You see, I don't even need to put any more paint in my sponge. It's very well loaded. My U is going to be red. And then my A is going to be blue. And I'm gonna go again with that dark blue. Oops. So put 2 coats. Everything's gonna need 2 coats, especially the white. So let's get a second coat on that white, the S and the stars. And the second coat on that red U. And the A is still pretty wet, so we're just gonna let that dry. It might not even need a second coat. Okay, let's see how we are. So my tag here, I'm gonna take my blue sponge, just a part that has that dark blue on it, and I'm just going to brush the edges of my tag to darken the edges up with that dark blue paint. Just like that. Set it aside. I'll push all of that stuff aside. And I'm going to come over to my blocks. They're dry. Okay, so for my white block, this is the one that's going to get the stripes on it. So I'm going to take my sheet of stripes. I'm going to pull one off. And I'm going to lay it on the very top of my block. And then wrap it around the edges. And then I'm going to grab another one. And I'm just going to lay it, this is going to be my spacer. So I'm just going to lay it right up to the edge of the other one and just hold it there for a second. There's no need to wrap it all the way around. And then I'm going to grab a third strip and I'm going to butt that one right up to that second one. But this one I'm going to smooth down and wrap it around. And then I'm going to remove that spacer piece and move it back down to the next one, just right underneath it. No need to stick it real hard and wrap it around the sides. Grab a next one. And this one we're gonna stick down and wrap all the way around. And then we're gonna move this spacer piece again. Oops. We're gonna do this all the way down. Okay, so there's our block. Now just move these all down so they're stuck really well. So we want to try not to have any bleeding, but bleeding will happen regardless of how hard you try. But try to prevent it by smoothing them down as much as you can. Okay, so now we're going to take our white sponge and we're going to dip it in the red paint. We're going to pounce off because we're just trying to load that sponge up with paint. We don't want a ton of it on. And we're going to pounce on our red stripes. Now this will need 2 to 3 coats. So we're just going to get our first coat on and then we're going to move over to our stars. Make sure you're doing the sides as well. You can do the back if you want to. I'm not going to save a little bit of time on the video. But if you want to do the back, go ahead and do the back as well. So once again, we're just going to get our first coat on. And then we're going to move over to our star block. You can see I'm just holding the block on the side with the edge on the table. Okay, so there's our first coat. We're just gonna set that aside. And we are gonna move over to our blue block. And we're gonna take our sheet of stars and we're just gonna pull that off. And then if any stars get stuck in the sheet, we're just gonna pull them out of there. All right, so you can see I have some stars that are stuck. I'm just gonna pull them out and stick them off to the side. I don't need the stars for anything. Yeah, let's see. I think that's it. One more in there. Okay, and then I'm gonna lay this on my block. Now, when I do stars, I don't do a pattern, so they're not like in a diagonal line or anything like that. I don't want them in any sort of a pattern. I want them just to be random. So I'm just gonna put this sheet on. So I have leftover on both sides so it wraps the side. Now I did not make the stencils to fit the backs of the blocks because I don't generally do the back of anything. By the time you get your stencil, if it's a little big, it may have been made to fit the back of the block, but generally I don't do that. So I'm just gonna smooth this around, and then I'm gonna smooth down the stencil with using my fingers. I'm gonna push it all down. Make sure I go around all the stars so that stencil is stuck to the block. Okay, and then I'm gonna take my other white sponge and I'm gonna dip it in my white paint and load that up. And I'm gonna come over and I'm gonna get all these stars. Just a light coat. You don't want it to bleed through the stencil. And you only have to do the areas that have the star cut out. Okay, we're gonna let that dry before we do our second coat so we can come back to our stripes and we can do our second coat on our stripes. So we're gonna set that aside and let that dry. And we'll come back to our blue block and we can do another coat on our stars. Our stars will need 3 coats, so we're just gonna let that dry for a second. And then we're gonna come back over to our red block here and decide what we're doing with this guy. I think, let's see. I think a splatter would be super cute on this. I think a splatter is going to be adorable on this. And I didn't think about that until just now, really. So, of course, you didn't see it in the beginning, but you're going to have a toothbrush in your kits because I want to do a blue and white splatter on this. And the easiest way to do that is with a toothbrush. So you'll have a toothbrush and you're probably wondering, why in the world did you have a toothbrush? So this is why. All right, so you're gonna want to get a small dish of water, or just a few drops on a paper plate is actually fine as well. Okay, so it may be hard to see, but I have a little bit of water on my plate. And I'm just gonna take my toothbrush and I'm going to put it into my white paint. So I have just a little bit of paint on my toothbrush. You can see that there. And then I'm gonna take and just grab a little bit of that water and kind of mix it in the white paint with the water. I don't want a ton of water, so I'm trying to keep all the water to one end here just so I have a little bit of thinner paint on one spot of the plate and now on my toothbrush. And then I'm going to take my block and put it in front of me, and I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to run it across the bristles of the toothbrush and splatter that paint on my block. You should not have to reload your toothbrush. That one should be enough there. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the blue paint. I'm just going to go and grab a little bit of the blue on my toothbrush and come back over to the plate and grab a little bit of the water. Kind of circle it around a little bit to get it mixed in there. And then same thing, I'm going to run my thumb across the bristles. This block would have been cute painted white as well with the splattering. Now splattering does make quite a bit of mess, so just make sure all your stuff's out of the way as you do it. And then just rinse your brush off when you're all done. Your toothbrush, I mean. Because you can save your toothbrush and you can do that again later. And we might actually do a splatter over top of the stars. That might look cute. Okay. Back to my blocks. I'm going to put my third coat on my stars. Now this will be all these need. And then I'm going to do a third coat on my stripes. And we're going to set that aside. There's so many things you could have done with this block. You could have done polka dots on it. You could have just hand painted some giant stars on it. You could have even hand painted like 1776 on it if you wanted to. So many things you could have done. Just all kinds of possibilities. Okay, so now we're gonna take, while we're waiting for our stuff to dry here a little bit before we remove our stencils, we're gonna come over and we're just gonna get this tag ready. So we're gonna tap our little glue. I'm just gonna use some open glue that we have in the studio, maybe. And we're going to put our letters on. Just run a little tiny bit of glue on your letters. If you get too much, just bounce that off on your table cover or on your pizza box. You don't want a lot of glue. And press those down. I'm going to take my stars. I'm going to just glue my stars to the tops of my letters. You can put them wherever you want them. I'm going to put them there. All right. You got a length of ribbon in your kit, so I'm just going to fold that in half. And then I'm going to feed that through the tag. And I'm just going to cow hitch that on. It's also called a lark's head knot. Ribbon's a little thick, but I thought a ribbon was a nice addition, so we're gonna do that. I'm gonna take my scissor. I'm just gonna trim this off a little bit. They don't need to be very long. So we have, that's our tag. And then we're gonna wanna heat our hot glue gun up. While our hot glue gun is heating up, we can start tearing our stencils off. Make sure your hands are clean so you don't get any paint accidentally. so there's our stripe block. So cute. And let's do our star block. There's our star block. Now, if you want to grunge this up, you can just grab some sandpaper and you can sand these up to grunge them up a little bit. Let's see. On this guy, I am going to use my toothbrush again. And I'm going to grab the white paint and my paper plate. And I am going to splatter this. You don't have to splatter. I just think, I don't know, I like it. I think it's cute. I think it adds just a little something. All right. There's that. And now our hot glue gun is hot. We're gonna take our fuses, these are our fuses, and we're gonna cut you, remember I said in the beginning, you had one long length. We're gonna cut that into 3s, so you have 3 equal lengths. They should be about 3 inches long or so. All right. And then we are going to take our hot glue, and we're just gonna put a dot of hot glue on the top of our block. You did get a hot glue stick in your kit, and we're gonna stick the fuse right in that dot of hot glue. Be careful. And we'll trim that, but right now we're just gonna set it aside. Same with this one. I'm gonna put the hot glue on my fuse first, all the way around the edges, and then I'm gonna put a hot glue dot on the block and then stick that in there. Maybe that will be a little easier. And you just pull off any strings that you get, any cobwebs from your hot glue, clean that up a bit and let that sit. And then we're gonna move over to our third one. There's our wick on our third. I'm just gonna take and trim these down. I don't like how tall they are. Just taking a little bit, maybe an inch off the top of each one. Okay. Okay, so there's our third block. Now I'm gonna take my tag and boy, I almost think, so I gave you a length of jute because I was thinking on this one, we would take and wrap the jute around it a couple of times. Okay, so here, let's just tie this off. We're just gonna tie this jute off. You could tie it in the back if you wanted, but I was already in the front, so I'm just gonna leave it in the front. And I'm gonna trim my ends just so they're about even, but that's it. And I'm gonna take, you can use super glue if you want, but because there's this bulk of the jute, I'm going to use hot glue. And I'm just gonna put some hot glue on the back, and then I'm gonna stick that tag right on top of that jute there. All right, and that's it. So let me try to make some space here and show you flat. Of course, you can see them in the opening picture, but this is your set of firecrackers. Oh, so cute. I love it. All right, I hope you guys had fun with this one. Maybe did a little something different on this block. If you did, please feel free to share it in the VIP group so other people can see what you've done and maybe get some inspiration from you. All right, guys, we will see you soon.